Hello everyone and welcome back to my Warhammer 40k guides. I am Brady and today I will be discussing board control and how to win the game in the movement phase. During a recent trip to Mini Wargaming, I took the opportunity to learn a lot from Mini Wargamer Steve, since he is a power gamer like myself, only he is much more experienced than I am, and I am always looking to improve my game. During that trip, I learned a few things from Steve, one of which is how to win the game in the movement phase. So let's break down a couple of things before we get into discussing how to control the board through movement. So a game of 40k plays out in phases. There is a movement phase, then a psychic phase, then a shooting phase, then the charge phase, then the fight phase, and then the morale phase. Notice the order of these phases, with movement being the first thing that takes place. This is extremely important to realize before we get into discussing how to use this fact to control the board. So knowing that movement is first, you can determine that all of the quote-unquote damage phases come afterwards, like the shooting and the fight phases. This means you can place your guys in a way to significantly hinder your opponent's movement with your own model placement, which buys you a whole turn of dictating where your opponent can go, because they can't even try to get rid of your models with damage until after the movement phase is complete. Here is an example of what I mean. A guard player against a marine player. Let's say we're on turn 3 and the guard player moves his army in such a way to surround the Space Marine player's army. Now when it's the Space Marine's turn, unless he has units with the fly keyword, he is essentially stuck where he's at until he can shoot or charge his way through the enemy units. This means he basically loses out on a whole turn of movement because he has to shoot his way out of the bubble. This means that for that turn, the Space Marine player won't be able to go grab any objectives and won't be able to set up any board control for themselves to try and do this to the guard player. This is what board control is, when you properly place your units in order to stop your opponent from doing the things they need to do. This can be grabbing objectives, this can be stopping them from charging your good units, which is essentially a screen. It can be used to stop them from moving up the board at all, so you can keep them in the same place all game if you have enough units to do so. This is board control. A good in-game example of this is when Mini Wargamer Steve cock-blocked my Imperial Knights with a couple of lowly drones because I was dumb enough to play follow the leader with my knights instead of spacing them out. So the drone stopped the first one from moving, which then blocked the second one from moving, which meant I had to shoot and charge my way out in order to move my knights again, which also meant that the knights weren't moving up and charging his big tanks, which is what I really needed at that point in the game. This bought Steve enough time for his anti-tank Tau to kill off the last 2 knights and end the game in under 40 minutes. After this game, I realized how important the movement phase was and how it could be used to gain advantages like this. Board control can be used in many ways, but essentially it's controlling where your opponent can move on their turn, which can limit their charges, how many objectives they can claim, and even their shooting range against valuable targets if done properly. Another aspect of board control is deep strike denial, but I cover that in another video, which I will have a link for in the description. So with that said, that's where I'm going to end this video. If you enjoyed the video, please hit the like button and subscribe for more Warhammer 40k content. And if you're already subscribed but would like to help support the channel even further, you can do so on Patreon. A pledge of $4 gets you into the Almost Pro Gaming Discord channel, where you can get Warhammer 40k advice from either myself or other patrons. The link is in the description. Thanks for watching the video, and I will see you in the next one. Happy wargaming.